Fine. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Avos Shalom Mishmar and to the our shir is Daddy, can I have a dog? Or why can't I have a dog? You know, there are two versions, depends which one you like. If you're the pro dogs or the anti-dog camp. It's a bit of a sensitive issue. It's a charged issue, I think a little bit in our neighborhood, so I decided to open it up. So where the shir is tzlocha and refuah of all the Jews in Ukraine, and for the refuah of Chol Yisrael, Frat Rachanoilad Ben Tomar. And let's go. So the question is, are there or aren't there halachic issues when one has a dog, when one wants to own a dog? What are the halachic issues? Many frum people are against having dogs altogether. Is there any basis to their thought, or is it just a white shirt kind of thing? Yeah, or is it real halachic thing or a shkafic thing? There are many questions. There are questions of if dogs are dangerous and they endanger the society around you. That's a major issue. And danger does not exactly have to be that the dog is a pit bull that just unprotected and kills everybody. There are issues of castration. You know, it's very common nowadays and recommended by many people. In some countries, I think that's a legal thing to do, is to castrate the dog. That's another issue in halacha, big issue. Of course, there are issues of muktzah. There are issues of you know, whether the blind dog can enter the shul, as we all know, v'chulei. And I will not talk about all the issues tonight. I'm sorry. The one sugya which I, Baruch Hashem, managed to delve into, I hope, with a certain amount of success, is the sugya of our dogs considered as dangerous and therefore should be kept out of, you know, neighborhoods where human beings tend to live. That's going to be the main issue. We're going to touch on the other issue of Sirus later. So let's go. Question. Imagine yourself the following scenario. This is Maisim Shebechol Yoim. I did my homework, and just imagine, don't have to stretch imagination, a family in Ramat Beit Shemesh decides that they want to buy a dog because the kid wants to, because I don't know, the father wants to, the mother wants to, everybody wants to, and they decided to buy a dog. And the dog is like a medium-sized dog, and of course he doesn't bite. And they buy the dog, and they're so happy that there's a new member to the family, Mazel Tov. And the issue is that the neighbors knock on the door, and the neighbor is absolutely horrified. And the neighbor says, "My kids are terrified of your dog. Your dog scares my children," says the neighbor. The neighbor whose children are really scared is originally from Bnei Brak. And the family that got the dog are from where? Tel Aviv, maybe. So then, yeah. So the Tel Aviv family, originally from Tel Aviv, they say, "What are you talking about? You have a problem? Your children are scared of my dog?" Listen, where I grew up, so a dog is a man's best friend. Everybody normal knows that it's a very normal thing to have a dog. It's part of a family. Look at all the movies, all the books, everywhere. That's our best friend. That's the most normal thing to do, everybody in the world. Your children are scared of my dog? Your children grew up in a very narrow-minded environment. And unfortunately, they were raised to hate animals. And I think that's really not nice. And you have to re-educate your children. And the fact that your children are scared of my dog is because of their bad education. They should learn to love the animals. Where I grew up, everybody kisses the dogs and hugs them and loves them. And if your children are scared of my dog, that is your problem. You better re-educate your children. And my lassie will keep running up and down the stairs all over Park alone. And if your kids are scared of her, tough luck. And the other neighbor says, "Mapitom, it's not a Jewish thing to do. My children have to protect your animal. You crazy? You should keep the dog at home. And my kids have to be, we're in a human being neighborhood. Of course, my kids are supposed to be the ones who can walk around freely, and keep your dog inside." And also he's barking, or her barking, whatever, disturbs my Shabbos sleep. And that's not neighborly, and it's not choshen mishpat, and it's not right. And besides, it's not the Jewish thing to do. It's not a Jewish thing to have a dog. It's looked at very negatively in halacha and hashkafa. And my Zaidi and Buba and your Zaidi and Buba never had dogs. The other neighbor says, "Leave the Bubi and Zaidi story alone. Your Bubi and Zaidi didn't have washing machines either, so stop telling me the frumi thing. And besides, dogs are looked at very positively in halacha, because didn't you learn in the kindergarten in Gan that the dogs were very nice to us in Mitzrayim, and we give them the nevela, which means that Judaism looks at dogs as a perfectly beautiful, amazing animal, and that's about it. So we have an argument here between two neighbors about whether the dog should be scared of the child or vice versa. The dog should be scared of the child, yeah, as you say. And let's see, so let's go to the rabbi. So what does the rabbi say about who should really keep his family inside, the dog owner or the children's father? Let's see. So I'm zoiche to Baruch Hashem. I'm zoiche every morning, almost every morning, to sit here with a group of very nice people and learn the Omid Yomi together. We're learning Bavakama, and when it comes to dogs, Bavakama is it. That's a Masechta that talks about dogs, and as we go through the Masechta, we're going to see very clearly one thing. There are many different opinions about, how about if you should or shouldn't keep dangerous dogs and the level of danger. One thing Baruch Hashem got very clear, and that is that there are 3 levels of dogs that are mentioned in Halacha regarding how dangerous they are. That is a very clear thing that goes throughout the Rishonim and the Achronim, of course, starting from the Gemara. You have those sheets over here. Yeah, people online, I'm sorry, but of course there are issues with Zoom as usual, otherwise, it's not Zoom if there are no issues. So the first type of dog is mentioned in Daf Tes Vav Amud Beis and in Daf Mem Vav Amud Aleph. You're welcome to look at the Mar Mekoimos. And it says over there that Reb Lezer says a Shor Muad. A Shor Muad, everyone knows about Shor Muad, right? That's a Shor that gored 3 times. He's a bad boy. He has bad record. 3 times he gored. And that Shor Muad, according to Reb Lezer, no hope. You cannot guard him. Even if you guarded him, you'll always have to, that's it. You have to kill it. You have to kill the Shor Muad. It has the same status as, I don't know, a lion or something. It's Muad, it's a bad boy. And therefore, that's it. The only solution is the knife. Go and eat it up. Just use it for Purim Suda. The Gemara then compares it to, thank you for Medora Talia, who went to each and every piece of paper and she highlighted the important parts by my instructions. Rabbi Nosson Oimer says, Rabbi Nosson in Daf Tesvav Amud Beis and in Daf Mevav Amud Aleph, comparing the bad dog, the Kelev Ra, to a Shor Muad, says Rabbi Nosson, Minayin shelo ygadol Odom Kelev Ra b'soich beisoi. How do you know that a person cannot breed a bad dog in his house, or Yamid Sulam Ra'ua b'toch beisoi? He cannot actually have also an unsafe, unstable ladder in his house. It says it's Nisr Daraisa. It says V'lo tosim domim bebeisecha. You're not allowed to have blood in your house. In other words, you just cannot have something that causes danger in your house. That's the Gemara Mevav Amud Aleph. The Gemara, excuse in both Tesvav Amud Beis, Mevav Amud Aleph. The Gemara in Daf Tesvav Amud Beis, by the way, the Gemara talks about a dog that eats animals even bigger than him, which is a big shinu. It's Keren. It's a very vicious dog. It eats. It's mamash a sakana. That dog is a sakana. Let's call it the biting dog. In our shir, we're calling him the biter. He's the one who mamash causes trouble. He bites. That's number 1. Number 2. Let's flip to Daf Aintes. Kelev Ra means a real bad dog. So for sure, the one who really bites is classified as a bad dog. It's a Kelev Ra. I'm sorry that the computer is shaking because I'm. Oh, I wish it was that simple. I'm very sorry for the dog lovers, but it's not going to be so simple. But the one that's really bad is out of the question. So a pit bull or whatever, the real bad ones, the Amstaff, whatever, the dingo, no question, they're out of the question. Mishnah Ein Tessamud Beis, also here on your pages, talks about not breeding chazerim, not breeding all kinds of animals that are negative for different reasons. And there it says also, Lo gadol odom es hakelev, do not breed a dog, elaim ken hayo kosher beshalsheles, unless it is tied with a shalsheles, unless it's tied with a shalsheles. If the dog is actually tied with a chain, and the Shulchan Aruch, and I think preceded by Rishonim, say shalsheles shel barzel. It has to be actually a chain, a real chain. Soon you'll see the Lashon of Shulchan Aruch being very strict about a type of shalsheles. So here we're talking about another kind of dog. What kind of dog is that? Look at Rashi, which is also highlighted by my daughter. So first of all, noishech, sometimes it bites, but as we're going to see later in the Gemara, Daf Pei Gimel Amud Aleph, which I'm afraid is not here, The Gemara over there talks about a dog, a story, very famous story about a woman that went into some kind of public baking house. Like today you have laundromats, you bring in your laundry and you take it out. In America, I think it's more common. Yeah, so people, they have like, places where you can bake. A woman went to a house to bake, and the owner of the bakery, the do-it-yourself bakery, he had a dog, and she was so scared of the dog barking. Yeah, the dog like basically charged her and started barking like crazy. He was not tied, and she was scared that it's going to actually bite her. And then the dog said, and then the owner said, huh, don't worry, he doesn't do anything. Yeah, as people say. And it says, I even took away its teeth. And Rashi in Shabbos says, I even took away its claws. Yeah, it really doesn't do anything. So the woman said, very cynically, sarcastically, she said, take your favor and throw it on the bushes, throw it like in the corner, kvar nad velad. My baby, she was pregnant. She said, my baby, I lost the baby. I was so terrified, so scared that I lost the baby, which means that even if the dog scares people off, the dog is a dog that has no teeth. There's no canine, not canine, canate, whatever. Lamaisa, the dog has no teeth, but the dog looks scary, sounds scary, and therefore people are scared of it. The Gemara goes into length and explains how terrible it is that she miscarried. It says that 22,000 people is the amount of Jews you have to have a Shros Shechina to have the divine presence. And if a pregnant lady, a pregnant woman is about to give birth and the baby was miscarried, that's kilu taking away the Shechina. And that's why later on there's another opinion in the Gemara, quoting Rabbi Lezer Hagadol, that says whoever breeds klavim, and we're talking about the same kind of kelev, that's kelev number 2. Who is kelev number 2? The dog number 2 is the dog that does not necessarily bite, but it barks. In many languages, you have this saying, a dog that barks doesn't bite, okay, right? So this is a barker, but he's bad news because the lady miscarried because of it. And on that, Rabbi Lezer says, on that very same statement, Rabbi Lezer said, Oru, whoever breeds a dog is like a person who breeds chazerim, pigs, which means that he's be'oru. Rabbanon made a gezer on him, that's the Rabbanon, Lafisam Rishonim, Lafisam it's Doraisa, and he's cursed. He has a curse upon him. So if you have a dog that scares off people, this is just the very Pashto Gemara, that's before entering all the Bnei Brak stuff, yeah? So yeah, you basically have the dog that scares off people and you're not careful about it. 1 second, please. Then that dog number 2, you're be'oru. By the way, the first dog number 1, really bites. That's a real biter. And that dog, when you keep that, there's a machlokes rishonim whether you chayav malchus, because it's an Isur D'Oraisa. Last time I checked, Isur D'Oraisa is chayav malchus. Eating chazir, basically, if you have an amstaff or you have a pit bull or one of those beautiful cutesy animals, that's an Isur D'Oraisa. Some say it's lavsha b'chlolois. You don't get malchus because it's part of the general lav. It's one application of a bigger lav, and therefore you don't get malchus, but you get shamta. That's what the Rambam says. You get nidui. If you live in a proper rabbinical-led society, then the Rav would put you in cherem if you have a bulldog running around. So dog number 1 is a doraisa for sure. If it's a real dangerous dog, that's number 1. Number 2 is the one that scares off people. The pregnant lady may be terrified. Children may be traumatized also. Okay, fine. And v'chule, so basically that's dog number 2. But there's hope. There's hope for dog lovers. I'm not here to be against anybody. Trust me. There is a Gemara Daf Pei Amud Aleph. I just couldn't put everything in the paper, but you're welcome to look afterwards. I can send you my own shir, which is here on the screen. The third dog in Daf Pei Amud Aleph, the Gemara there discusses the third type, and that is there is a question in the Gemara, as I'm sure you know, there is a prohibition from the times of already Yoshua not to have sheep, not to breed sheep and goats in Eretz Yisrael because they eat up all the vegetation. It's gzela, it's not not environmentally friendly, and therefore some Tanoim hold, with the Shulchan Aruch doesn't pass in that way, that chaya daka, also animals like deer or foxes, also you cannot breed because it can also cause danger or they eat up other people's stuff. And then says another opinion, Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says you're allowed to breed klovim kufrin. Welcome to the third type called klovim kufrim. Doesn't mean koifrim, that they're koifer in Hashem. I'll leave rooms for questions soon. Yeah. But the Klavim Koifrin says Rashi are, I'm quoting Rashi, Ktanim v'nanosim hem. They are small and midget. They're like they're tiny and cute. Yeah, it's a lap dog. It's a little cutesy poodle. It's a chihuahua. Yeah, those little ones with the old lady and the dog have some, their family. And they are the little small ones. And according to Rabbi Ishmael, you're allowed to breed those dogs. And according to the Yamshel Shlomo, I'm jumping all the way to the Achronim. According to Yamshel Shlomo, they are, because they're so nice and cutesy, according to some people, although it's a discussion, they may be able to be kept even without any shmira. They really don't do anything. And therefore, they can be just bred with no hashgacha whatsoever, possibly. I prefer no questions about details because really, there's a lot to say in each and every group. All I want you to know now is we have 3 levels, okay? We have the one who bites. He really knows how to bite. He is not just, he doesn't bark. He surprises you. He's Putin. He's the real thing. Yeah. And what does he do? You know what he does, whatever. No question, that's mamish. Oraisa, it's a possible malchus. Number 2, at the end of Merube, Tafain Test, is the dog which should not be kept unless it's tied. The lotion of the Mishnah, which you do have in front of you, you can only keep it if it's chained properly, and that is the dog that barks. And then you have number 3, who is the koifri. The kufri is, I think kufri comes from a village. Maybe it's like a village dog. By the way, Rashi says, another pshat in Rashi about the kufri, klovim gdoilim shel tzayodim. They're actually the big dogs of the hunters. They mazikin, but they don't harm. Sometimes, as you know, the little dogs, they bark much more than the big ones, right? I think they lack self-confidence. They go to the dog psychologist, so they bark all the time. Right, exactly. But the dog, sometimes the big one, he goes with the hunters. He's a big boy. He doesn't care about the children and women of the neighborhood. He has different clientele. So around people is very nice. Also, Achronim say that he's visibly different. It's a different species of dog. So we have 3 types of dog: the worst, the medium, and the best, so to speak. I don't mind if you ask technical questions now, but don't go into details of what if, because we really didn't start this year. So I'm saying we're going to discuss each level separately, okay? Unless there's something very to the point that you didn't understand. And also, if you can bring me some water, that would be extremely appreciated. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's just repeat. That's a good question because you're asking about effect. Dog number 2, group number 2, even if he does not bite because he doesn't have his teeth were taken away by the veterinary dentist, still he should still be chained properly, because the Rishonim and the Prisha and the Achronim, they all say the pregnant woman or the potential victim who's scared of the dog should know and see that it's chained. Yeah, it's not enough like the dog charges on you and then the lady from 2 kilometers away says he doesn't do anything. You have to be aware right from the start that this dog is completely protected and harmless because it's chained, because you don't know if the teeth are taken or not. With me? Yeah. Yes.
Just creates fear.
Yes. That
in itself puts
100%.
That's all you need.
Absolutely. Yeah. To create pachad is bad enough. And I'll tell you why some people, as we'll see later on, some people say that the second dog, according to some Rishonim in the Shita Mekubetzes, even a second dog could be an Issa D'Oraisa of Letosim Domim Bebeisecha. Why? I assume because it can cause death. People can die out of fear. Pregnant ladies can actually miscarry. So if the fear can kill, that could happen. And sometimes people use the dogs on purpose to put other people, to scare other people, unfortunately. And therefore, yeah, there were terrible cases for a Saba. What? Yeah. I want to add something about guard dogs regarding the second and possibly first level. The Gemara does say in Daf Pei Gimel that there is, and that goes through other Rishonim Nechronim, the Gemara does say that if you live in an Ir Sfar, if you live in a city by the border, which means that, you have nice, friendly people from the other side of the border that may come and steal in the middle of the night or do worse things. In that case, says the Gemara, you're allowed to keep the bad dogs. I don't know if the worst one or the middle ones, but some level of bad dog can be kept there and be let loose only at night, not by day when the ladies of the Moshav, near Gaza, let's say, are, doing their shopping. Then even there, you cannot have your dog in the middle of the day. You can only have it free in the middle of at night in order to scare away those that you're not interested in coming. That's an exception to the rule. We'll go back to that from Hashem in the Ramah. Let's talk about dog number 1. So dog number 1, what's the punishment basically? What's the story if you keep a dog that is an Isser D'Oraisa? Basically, the Rosh says that if the dog bit once bitten, twice shy. The dog bit once, says the Rosh, that's good enough for us to kill the dog right away. The question is, that's not the story of Bashar Muad. Everybody in school already learns, and of course in Bava Kama, we learn 1, 2, 3. You don't kill him even after 3 times, by the way, if he didn't kill people. Yeah. So why do you say, and this dog killed a rooster, killed a sheep. So why do you kill him straight away? Says the Rosh, because he's worse than a show. The Rishonim say that a bad dog, which we know is a bad dog, according to Rosh, one time he dared he charged against animals bigger than him. That's so crazy, so vicious. He's more vicious than Shor Hamuad, than Shor Tam, who only gored once. And therefore, by bad dog, one time, that's like by a bull 3 times. That they're so bad, the bad ones, they're more vicious by nature. And I'm adding now the Talmud Rabbeinu Tam says, as we learned to Bavakama, a shor by nature is actually a nice animal. It's machloikis, but we pass in a shor unless it starts having bad record going off the derech and 3 times goring. We say the shor, mela, that's, as long as it's not really bad, we assume it's good. By a dog, he says even 0 times. If we have a type of dog which we know is a vicious type, some dogs are vicious by nature. You're not allowed to have it. What are you supposed to do with it? Says Rashi, you kill it. Just you can't have the bad dog bichlal. You kill it and finished. And now, what happens if you don't? One thing for sure, says the Gemara, ben kach uben kach mishamtinan lei, says in Mukha Yosef, even if you did not do anything, you put the person in cherem. Rambam, I'm jumping a little bit. The Rambam in Ilchas Talmud, another Rambam you see here, a different Rambam. Remember that Rambam in Ilchas Talmud Torah, the Rambam talks about a large group of people, all types of people. You're supposed to put in cherem. Who is the one supposed to be in cherem? Well, the Rambam does not talk about smartphones. I'm not sure. The Rambam says one of the examples is a person who owns a bad dog. Doesn't give any other explanations. If you have a bad dog, then you're in cherem, finished. Or a sulam ruah. It's just a dangerous thing to have in your house. That is the bad one. Says the Maharsha, what's so bad about the bad dog? Says the Maharsha, even if that bad dog the family is familiar with the dog, and what's the lotion? Bebeso, it's in your house. But if, assuming some people coming to your house, everybody knows the joke about the postman, right? Everyone knows, of course, the postman is always scared of the dog, no? It's a very known thing in the Western world. So if you have a postman coming to your house, or you have the milkman coming to your house, or you have, I don't know, somebody coming to your house, you have a mashulach coming to your house, whoever you have coming to your house, and you have a dog that jumps all over him, and it's a bad one, that's it. To own such a thing, even indoors, is a problem. Now, okay, we're going to compare the worst dog to number 2 dog. What's the second dog? Don't raise the other dog. Don't have him in your house unless it's tied with a shalsheles, because the woman is scared of it. Okay, now, the Mishnah here doesn't say kelevra. If you look at the Mishnah, here you have it. Bavakama intes, legadol odom es ha kelev, do not raise the dog, don't have the dog unless it's tied with a chain. Oh, it doesn't say a kelevra. Why not? Makes a lot of sense. Well, I know why, right? You can already figure it out. Let's start playing jigsaw puzzle now. The first dog, which is really, really bad, you can't keep, right? Here the Mishnah talks about a kelev, which is not very bad. It only barks, right? And such a dog, you are allowed to have if you have a shalsheres, if it's properly chained. So now, if you look at the Rif, which I'm sorry is not inside here, the Rif basically paskins like both about the first dog and the second dog. The Rif seems to me to be saying, and it's halacha sefer, and I looked through and through. The Rif basically says 2 things. The dog that's really, really bad, it's an Isser D'Oraisa. Lotosim domim bebeisecha. Are you allowed to have it if it's chained? What do you guys think so far? Let's say from what you've figured so far from when I'm talking too much alone over here. Would you say that if I have a box, not a boxer, worse, I don't know, a pit bull or a real biter, yeah, you give a good piece. So can I have it if it's chained? No, I agree with Jeffrey. Why? Because first of all, it doesn't say anything about chaining, about chain as an option. The Mishnah that talks about number 2 says don't have it unless it's chained. And that seems to be the opinion of the Rif. Very simple. There are two differences. The bad dog is an Issa D'Oraisa, and you cannot have it at all. You know what you're supposed to do with your pit bull? Kill it, says Rashi. And if you don't, you're in Cherem. Oh, sorry. Yep. There's a guy in our street I was told that has a pit bull, walks around with it. Oh, very nice. It has a thing on the a muzzle on the mouth. Doesn't seem to be help. According to the Rif, does not. According to the Rif, I'm not saying everyone follows the Rif. We're not yet in Shulchan Aruch, by the way. Shulchan Aruch, by the way, is more forgiving. So, according to the Rif, that's not a solution. No, but according to the Rif, chain is not a solution for a real bad dog. Chain is only a solution for the one that barks and doesn't bite. And if it's chained, the lady sees it's properly chained. My Chavrus wanted to say a cute thing. One of my Chavrusas, Moshe, he said that the Shulchan Aruch adds barzel. It doesn't say it in the Mishnah. He says the one from the barzel, the one that's made out of iron, you can hear. You know, you enter a house and you hear the dog and the chick chack chack of the. So she hears and sees that it's chained. So the lady is like calm. So that could be a good reason also. But if it's something, elastic, maybe it's not good enough. So no, l'chayra from the Rif, and we'll see in the Rambam, which is more problematic, because if the owner of that dog is a Yemenite, that's a big problem because they follow the Rambam. The Rambam, as we'll see later, is like the Rif. The Rambam, as we're going to prove soon in Hashem Be'iyun, they believe that the real bad dog is hopeless. It just does not belong in a human neighborhood. Yep. And 1 second, the sheikh and the one that looks dangerous and acts dangerous and can, put fear in people's hearts. For him, there's a solution if you chain him properly. That seems to be the Rif, because what about the third type? The Rif ignores the third type. What about the cutie little poodle, which is so nice and the old lady likes it? The Rif does ignore it, and that's not good news. And we're going to touch upon that later. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Rambam, and you can see the Rambam inside. Unless you want to tell me something before that. Yeah. You're right, Mayor. The Mayor is right. You cannot sell it to another Yid, regardless to his level of religiosity. You can just, I don't know, sounds like you have to kill it. You have to, I don't know, maybe give it to a place where human beings don't live and only dogs. Mashu kazeh. To what? It's true you can't sell it to Goy because you're not allowed to sell weapons to Goyim. Thank you very much. Talmud Chacham Rabbi Yoel says true that you should know. I'm not going now down that lane because it's not the Inyan, but the fact that Jews sell weapons to Goyim is pashtat possible for Allah. Know that. It says En Meshchizan LaMesa Zayin in the Desert Shulchan Aruch. That's not the topic right now. I have other issues to talk about in the future. Yes. Danielle? Yes. Oh, that's number 2. So if it's very intimidating, according to the Rif, you can have it as long as it's properly chained. I'm not sure if you can walk around with it in the street or not. Maybe if yes, it has to be properly, held very tight with a collar. Yeah. So fine. Number 2 is the Rambam. Look at the very, shall I say, strange-looking Rambam. The joke is the Brisker. The Briskers, they always like to delve very much into the Rambam. What does the Brisker daven every morning to find a steer in the Rambam? Yeah, okay. So let's find a steer in the Rambam. Yay! I already found it for you. Says the Rambam, and everybody says that the Rambam says all dogs are osir unless chained. Says the Rambam, Nizki and Hey test. Hey, do you remember what's the first Rambam? The first Rambam Talmud Torah says a kelev ra, like the real bad one. You have to do. That's it. You just can't keep it. Get rid of it. I don't know what to do with it. An injection. Says the Rambam, Nizke Momoin, Perke Alochotes, also Chochom Agad Chazir Bechol Mokom, you can't breed pigs anywhere, not even in wherever. Okay, you're not allowed to breed a dog. Does it say a bad dog? No. a dog. Sounds to me even chichi, even the chihuahua, the cutesy, the whoever, don't breed a dog unless it's chained with a shalshelis with an iron thing. You can raise dogs, you can have dogs in the city close to the border where it's the security issue. In the day, you tie it. At night, you basically let it loose on whoever you have to let it loose on. Chachamim said, "Oh, megadol klovim v'chazirim." You're not allowed to have to breed or to raise whatever to keep, the klovim and the chazirim, because their damage is abundant and very commonly found. They are very damaging. Ooh, so something in the Rambam doesn't make sense to me. On one hand, the Rambam says Kelev, and you look at many Achronim and they say, oh, the Rambam is opposed to Shulchan Aruch, which we'll see later. I just tried to be chronologically correct, so I'm mentioning Shulchan Aruch. The Rambam holds all klovim are osur unless they're tied with a chain. Abazoi, the Rambam at the end says Hezekon Matsui. Well, you think a little cutesy poodle of the old lady is Hezekon Matsui? I don't think so. So that's a question that I have. So now I'm going to do something illegal. What am I going to do? Something which no graduate of my yeshiva would do, or the yeshiva where I learned in Reb Tzvi. I'm doing something out of despair. And in order to understand the Rambam, I'm jumping, before I see the other Rishonim, I'm jumping, not like a dog, I'm jumping to the Yavetz. The Yavetz is not so friendly with the dogs. He is not so nice to the dogs. What does the Yavetz say? Rabbi Yaakov Memdin, with him, we're going to understand the Rambam. Says Rabbi Yaakov Memdin, and I want to give a small introduction before I'm going now to get you out of one issue of the dog to another issue. The Gemara, and then we'll do the Yavetz, and then we'll understand the Rambam. Says the Yavetz, says the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Daf Chav Beis Amud Beis, and also somewhere in Bava Metzia, says the Gemara that an almana lutar bi kalba, an almana, a single woman, which is a widow, or could be other single women too, they should not raise, they should not keep a male dog. Why is that? Because, says Tosfos, nobody really thinks that old Rebbitzin has anything bad to do with the animal, as is called, bestiality. But people talk. In other words, we Chazal, we know she's okay. There's no Yisur Yichud, Yisrael, Nechshadu, Lazochur, Rabbeima. But Lamaisa, people talk. Nisra Chacharea, she walks with the dog everywhere. And people may know the Achnienta of the neighborhood. They're going to say that she has unhealthy relationship with a dog, with a male dog, and therefore that woman should not keep the dog. So I would say, not just me, the pro-dog Achronim say, you see that the almana cannot have a male dog. Mashma, everybody else is allowed to have dogs. Probably which ones? The small ones. She can either have a dog that is tied, and that's a scary one, right? The scary looking one. Or maybe she has, like many lonely women, she has a small one, and that small one is what? Even loose, because we didn't loimatsanu that you have to keep it, with the shalshelis possibly. That's a question. Says the Yavetz, no way. Listen to what the Yavetz says. The Yavetz comes to combat that line of thought, that wavelength. Listen to the Yavetz, not word for word, Birshuschem. The Yavetz got a question from a person. It sounds to me like he's a rich guy, the one who asks the question. He has many houses and he has a bored wife. So it sounds like he's rich. So then this person asks the question, I have many dogs, and my only question is, what about feeding the animals before I eat myself? Everybody knows that's the second parsha of Krishma, right? You first feed your animal, and then livem techa, and then v'chadav zavada. He has a lot of dogs to feed before he feeds himself, before he has dinner. So I skimmed through the first part, and then I saw the second part. The second part, the Yavetz starts really giving to him. He really gives it to him. And he says, why are you, the word breeding means a lot. That's breeding. He says, why do you have so many dogs, B'chlau? It's usher to have so many dogs. Says the Yavetz like this. The Yavetz believes that both group number one, the real usher one, trace. The real dangerous ones, out of the question. Yeah. The middle ones, he says, only if you have one dog, or maybe one dog per area, per house, that's manageable, you can tie them. But if you have lots of dogs that look scary, even if they're tied, it's usher. It's out of control. I'm trying to be very, very careful and politically correct here. cannot mention my own experiences, but I'll tell you, I once went to a certain house in a very far off community somewhere in the world. And personally, and now I am, although I'm from, no, because I'm from Tel Aviv, I'm really not scared of dogs, unless a mamish bite my face, whatever. But if a dog jumps all over me, I'm used to it because in childhood, no Froom family in Tel Aviv ever owned dogs. I remember one Froom families in Tel Aviv meant by me that in whatever, where circles I grew up, like there was television in the home, the women didn't cover their hair. There were very not Haredi people around us, but nobody would have a dog if he's Froom. Yeah. Elamad was one very left-wing family. They had a dog. That was back then. So Bekitzer, I come to this guy's house, and he has dogs all over the place. The guy's a very large house, and there are dogs jumping over me and over him and over the kid and over the Masharsim. Like I felt like I came into dog land, like cute. For me I came to fundraise. It was like, I have a Torah center in Ramat B'Shemesh, and I'd like to ask you if you have some money. Like I was basically okay with that, but it was a little bit uncomfortable. So says the Avid, so this guy, obviously in that town, it's not in America, in Europe, by the way, far away place. In that town, he didn't read the Avid. The Avid says they have too many of them, even with a chain, is just not working. Says the Avid, like this, says the Avid, you're telling me that why do you keep the dogs? The rich guy says, because I want to keep my wife busy. She's mishwamemes, she's bored. Says the Avid, oy vavoy, that's much worse. Says the Avid, any woman or any man, specifically women, should not, that's his opinion. I'm not saying that's halacha, that's his opinion. I'm only coming to explain the Rambam. He says even the dogs that are not dangerous, even type 3 dogs, even they can be dangerous. His lotion is shchicha sakanta bekulhu. All of them can be dangerous at some point. Sometimes it happened and even the innocent looking ones bit, they were biting. The chmir sakanta meisura. Don't tell me roiv shmot chmir sakanta meisura. Like sakana, we don't say roiv. Sakana, danger. Everybody knows safety first, right? In the Western world, we're always raised on safety first. When it comes to dogs, should be the same, which means, before you get to the almano, that's a different story. Basically, what does the Avid say? The Avid says that group 2 and 3 are the same. You're supposed, if you have a small dog, also you're supposed to chain it. You're supposed to keep it chained. And that's very good with the Rambam. Now the Rambam is good. Later we'll talk about the widow. The Rambam is great. You know why? Says the Rambam, any dog should be kept with the sharsheres. Obviously, it doesn't talk about the kelevra. Look at the Rambam inside. It's beautiful. Not kelevra, because kelevra is discussed in a different halacha. They did shoot him in the head. We're not talking about him. A kelevha number 2, don't raise him and don't keep him unless he's chained, sharsheres, because a second merube v'matzui, even the little ones. Hakelev includes group 2 and 3. According to the Rambam, the real bad dog, the pit bull, the dingo, out, shoot him in the head. Number 2 and 3, because sometimes even the little ones can be dangerous, because merube v'matzui, as in general, that species called dogs can be dangerous. 2 and 3 may be bred, but only with a chain. And that could be great shot in the Rambam and the Rif. Because the Rif is really like the Rambam, if you hold cup. Now, the Yavitz has an extra chumrah. The Yavitz has an extra chumrah as a cherry on top for those who are anti-dog camp. The Yavitz holds that nobody should keep dogs for shashuim, for entertainment, as a pet, says the Yavitz. So it's not just about, wearing a white shirt and being a thrumi. The Yavitz is the Yavitz. I'm not saying it's the only opinion, but there is an opinion in Allah or Yaakov Mandin. So in Kol HaKavod, says the Yavitz, it's dark hair goyim, and it's called Moshav Leitzim, and by women it's even more inappropriate to own the dog. The Gemara says only Almana. Listen to this. Says the Yavitz, no, the Almana, who needs a guard dog more, the Almana or the married one? The Almana. Even though she's Almana, I would say she needs guard dog more than anybody else. By her, even a guard dog, which is justified, it's not some shtiyot of this is my family, he's my friend. It's real guard dog. Even that is usher, although she needs it more, usher. What should she get? She should get a female dog. She should get a gun. Gun is loyal, but whatever. She'd get a pepper spray. I don't know, get a code on your house, call the police, remarry, do something else. Just don't get a male dog, have other solutions. even though you need it more. But for Mischak, for Shashua, for a pet, says the Avetz, it's also for all women. And he starts going into detail. There are types of dogs that people are megagea and they kiss them and they're very cuddly with them. Says the Avetz, it's very not the Yiddish derech. He calls it Maisa Goim. It doesn't say Darka Moiri. He's careful, but he calls it Maisa Goim, and he calls it also Moshe Vleitz. I'm not saying again. I'm not basking here. That's not halachish here. No tomatoes on me, please. But this is the Avetz. As though there's an opinion, and with the Avetz, we can get the Rambam and the Rif very much in place. Summarizing again, Rambam type 1, kill him, shoot him. I don't know, bury him. Type 2 and 3, the one that's scary and the one that looks cute, even the cute one may be dangerous. So I succumbed to the internet at some point, and I promised myself I'm only going to get Torah Dika sources, but at some point I was curious. So right before the shir, I Googled, can a poodle bite? Can a chihuahua bite? Ooh, you know what I got? Like this. I got 2 results. So I got a result. How many clothing items does your chihuahua have? That's like a questionnaire the Chihuahua lovers site. The Chihuahua have 5 items or 10 or 50 or 6, whatever. I'm not joking. But the other side of the website, about Chihuahua and poodles, said, oh yeah, they bite. Oh yeah, they bite. They don't bite as hard as maybe other ones. You have to train them and understand them and love them. But it's all chinuch site about the dogs. But lemaisa, even the little ones, according to what I read, they support the habits. They're not saying you shouldn't have a dog. They're saying you should. But lemaisa, even the little ones, according to the habits, which I connected, Rambam and the Rif would say it's awesome. Hey, stay on your seats, stay on your seats. There's the Shulchan Aruch coming. The Shulchan Aruch is nicer to the dog lover. Question? Or we go to the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says the Shulchan Aruch. Chazirim is not the topic. You can read it inside here. The last Marmokim Shulchan Aruch. Osor legadel kelev ra. 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 Kelev ra. Osor legadel kelev ra. Elim kenu osor b'shalshalos shel barzel. Listen carefully to every word. Shulchan Aruch is already obligating us. Elim ken, unless it's osor b'shalshalos shel barzel, tied with shalshalos shel barzel with iron chains. Vekoshu behem, and also tied in them, like double knot, some double kind of shmira. Because unless here it's muchal aspar, and then I'm not going to the Ramon now. The Shulchan Aruch. What does the Shulchan Aruch say? Interesting lashon. You cannot raise the kelev ra unless it's shalshalois. Something here doesn't work right. It's not what we saw in the Gemara. He's mixing up everything, the Shulchan Aruch. What's going on over here? We learned up until now, everything was so nice, and now everything's, why am I upset now? You know why? Up until now, I thought the kelev ra, boom, 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 shoot him. The kelev, which is only scary, the one who barks but doesn't bite, you keep him in a chain. I didn't make it up. It's a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, en megadlin what? Kelev. Doesn't it kelev ra? Kelev, elim ken kosher b'shalosh shel barzel. But kelev ra, b'shalosh shel barzel? Where does Shulchan Aruch take that from? Says the Tosfos Yom Tov, and that is a whole new understanding of the Shulchan Aruch. Says the Tosfos Yom Tov in the Mishnah. It says like this. What does the Mishnah say? Legadel Odom Kelev, which Kelev? It's Ha Kelev, one cute letter. I think I was taught in Ulpan that the letter Hey means the in Hebrew, right? Okay. Yeah, Ha Kelev. Don't breed or don't raise the dog. What do you mean the dog? You said Legadel Kelev. What's the dog? You know which dog? The ones we spoke about before. Don't raise the ra. Don't raise the bad dog. That bad dog, yeah, the one that really bites, the pit bull. That one, don't have him unless you chain him. But chaining the very bad one is okay. So according to Shulchan Aruch, the guy walks around with a pit bull, and it's really chained properly to his hand with a strong collar, and he has a thing on his mouth. It's some kind of double shmira, shel shalosh shel barzel. He's like, this dog is like very well protected. That's okay, even though it's a kelev ra, according to the understanding of the Tosfos Yom Tov. What happens to level 2? What happens to the scary dog that doesn't bite but only barks? Oh, here says the Bes Yosef. The Bes Yosef says, and Bes Yosef says the makor of the tour is our Mishnah. Our Mishnah of not breeding the kelev middle of the road kelev. What kind of kelev are we talking about here? The one who's scary, not the one who actually does something, right? So must be that the Shulchan Aruch and the Torah and Shulchan Aruch, they put number 1 and 2 together. They combine kelev ra as the kelev which is really, really bad, the biting one and the barking one. Both of them can only be kept if they're properly chained and secured. So if we follow Shulchan Aruch and Ramah, we are okay with what? Keeping the dog that is really bad or the one that looks bad. Those dogs can be kept with the shalsheles. And I'll prove it to you also from what the Ramah says. The Ramah says, look at the kula of the Ramah. The Ramah's way is many times to be melamed lekaf sfus on the minaga oilam. Says the Ramah, nowadays, says the Ramah, even if you live in Krakow or you live in, I don't get personal, certain cities in Ukraine, before her, so Goyim can get very anti-Semitic. It's like living in the border. You live in the middle of the town, but you're surrounded with Goyim. And therefore, Yidden used to keep dogs as guard dogs. The whole Indian shari. Then you're allowed to even let them loose. Let them loose even in the middle of the day. The whole Indian shari. And look, that's what people do. Mionire continues the Ramah. If it's a kelev ra, listen to the words. If it's a kelev ra, that there's a chashash, there's a concern, he will really hurt people. The osel legadlo elim gen kosher b'shel shalosh shel barzel. So what did the Ramah really tell us? You can feel from the words of the Ramah that there are 2 levels. The dog that's really, really dangerous, that can actually bite and kill, or even kill other people's property, like the bigger sheep. That kind of dog, says the Ramah, that you can only have shel shalosh shel barzel. And the middle one, if you live in a very anti-Semitic neighborhood in Ukraine, Poland, or America, and people around you bother you all the time, then you can have that dog running around free, only if it's type 2, the barking one. Okay? Sounds like Shulchan Aruch spoke about both, the biting and the barking. So let's summarize. What about, before we summarize, number 1, according to Shulchan Aruch and the Torah, you don't have to shoot in the head. You have a box, not a boxer, even worse. I don't know, the one who really bites, the real bad one. What about him? Keep him at bay, keep him very well chained, double chain, What about the middle one, the one that barks? Same. They don't differentiate. They put kelev ra together. What about the cutesy little chihuahua? They definitely do not talk about him, and they allow him to run around free. Well, how do I know? Because the little one is definitely not a kelev ra. That's not a kelev ra. The kelev kufri is a cutesy. Maybe it bites a little bit, barks a little bit, but it's not a kelev ra. Because when they say kelev ra, they for sure come to exclude something. Must be the lowest level, according to the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. The little cutesy one is okay. What I said, basically, the way I explain Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah is very much Baruch Hashem Shekivanti, very much to the words of the Yam Shel Shlomo. The Yam Shel Shlomo is the other side of the spectrum from the Yavetz. Yam Shel Shlomo is Mekel. The Yam Shel Shlomo says that a dog that's real dangerous, what I said basically, Yam Shel Shlomo, real dangerous, or it's a wannabe dangerous one, you can keep as long as it's very properly chained. Very properly chained, by the way, does not mean you go to park alone and you let your dog run free 2 kilometers away, and when it's almost eating someone's face, you go like, he doesn't do anything. That's not the story, In other words, you have to keep it very, very well tied, to yourself, and keep it very, very close to you, so it shouldn't begin to scare anybody. That's the story of Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. What about the cute little one? Says the Yam Shel Shlomo, Lenoi, clothing that are kept for beauty, for entertainment, for pets, it sounds like the they're okay. It says better not, but there's no makom to osir. So very nice. So if you follow Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, you may possibly be able to have the cute little one without the thing, without the shmira. And he also proves it with Almana, because he wants to say the Yam Shel Shlomo, as opposed to the Avitz, Yam Shel Shlomo says only an Almana cannot have a dog because it's not proper, it's not tzanua, it doesn't look tzanua. Says the Yam Shel Shlomo, what's the concern with the Almana? The dog runs after her. So he says it sounds like the Almana does not chain the dog properly. No, like he runs after her, so people think he's interested in the wrong kind of thing. So therefore, says the Yamsha Shlomo, we see that had she not be almana and he be a he, then it would be okay to have a cute little one, which is what the almana has. That would be okay otherwise. Okay, Ad Kan, more or less, Baruch Hashem, what I gleaned from the inyan of a dangerous dog. Open to questions quickly. We have more stuff coming. Yeah, more water will be. I'm sorry, I should have prepared before, but anybody who wants to bring me water will be doing a great mitzvah. Thank you very much. I apologize and I thank you. I'm listening to every word you say. Now, Yitzchei Choishen, a safer called. So before you buy a dog, if you really have to buy one, we'll discuss later other issues. So you have to make sure that this dog doesn't look scary, because according to some Rishonim, even a scary looking dog, if you don't really chain it properly and walk with it in a very, very tight way, double shmira and osir and kosher, if it's not like that and it looks dangerous, it looks, in my original story, or I started this year, the neighbor from Bnei Brak seems to be on the right side. We're not supposed to tell children, they were raised to be scared of animals and they're so narrow-minded, and I come from where it's normal that the dog is my best friend and that's, my childhood and that's my life. No, apparently not. Apparently not. Apparently the one who's right in the Ben Adam Lechavera topic is the one who says my kids can run around free in the Cheder Madrigot, and your dog should be either not be here at all or should be kept very, very tight and not run around after people. And that seems to be the halacha for sure, one level or another. Now, and according to the Avets, even a small one has to be chained. Says Rav Bloy, the Rav of Sanhedria, and Sefer Piskei Choshen, a dog that barks, and nobody's scared of him, but it happens in our street, not in my building. No personal baggages over here. I promise not to this. But Lamaisi, it happened to my friend. He has neighbors who had a dog, and the dog barked through Shabbos afternoon. And this man is a hardworking man, and he couldn't sleep all Shabbos. Nice. Because someone has to have a dog. Why does he have to have a dog? I'm not sure. But my friend couldn't sleep until he was stopped because the neighbor complained. But says Rav Bloy, Midin Ben Adam L'Chaveru, Midin Nizke Shchenim, if you have a dog that barks and that simply bothers people, either train him not to bark in those hours, maybe train him to bark where, if that's possible, where people are at work, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock, but not at night and not in the Shabbos shlof. And otherwise, it's a big problem. What do you do with it? I don't know. But that's yet another issue people have to take into account about the social thing if they decide to buy the animal. Yes, questions, and then there's more. To the mother-in-law. Okay. I'm listening. I'm listening to every word, yeah. I want to add something important. People may claim that it's a societal thing. Let's say you live in North Tel Aviv and everybody has dogs, and you buy a dog, and the next door neighbor doesn't like it. So then you can claim, what do you mean? That's minhag hamakom. Everybody has dogs, and fear of dogs is not the norm over here. I'm not sure what the halacha would be, but it sounds to me like I was medaik in the Rishonim, although I don't have the lashon right in front of me. When we speak about what's in North Tel Aviv that's halachically okay, the Ir Sfar, the city by the border, that's where people all have guard dogs because they're supposed to. Because we're supposed to, not let our nice, friendly Lebanese neighbors come in and infiltrate. Still, the Rishonim are medayik, you're not allowed to have it loose by day, only by night where nobody's there. So we don't say, okay, we created the social norm where everybody has dogs, and those people have a cutesy, not cutesy, I meant to say a very fragile kind of family members, they should move out. No, it's not. Lo matzati ba'af mokom, and I researched pretty well, I think, Baruch Hashem, that we say, okay, it's already normal. No. In other words, the fact that the dog is there, regardless of the norm, if the person next door, any person may come, and anybody can have a pregnant woman coming at any moment, that means that the dog should always be chained and always make sure that the dog doesn't look scary, feel scary, or would scare off anybody, regardless of location, even in the Ir Sfar, which is normal. And Rabbi Yoli is saying over here, Yavet, who seems to be such a hardliner, lived in a society where it was very normal to have dogs. Makes sense. Right, Rakib Nemdin, yeah. He didn't live in the shtetl in Poland, where I guess it was less common. So that's topic number one, and the main topic spoke about today. We only have 3 more minutes, so I don't have time to talk about sirus, about castration, which is a huge issue. It's a very big issue, and basically, I did not study it well. I admit, I took a long time on the danger issue, but I can tell you that I know in general. I don't know much about it. I know in general, many people who have male dogs, they castrate them. I think also female dogs. And the Shulchan Aruch says that I assume there are solutions, but the Shulchan Aruch says you're not allowed to castrate an animal. I want to tell you something cute. Before we say that, in Chagiga Yodal Domud Beis, Shalues ben Zoima, Malis Rusi Kaba, are you allowed to castrate a dog? He said no. It says in the Torah, you're not allowed to castrate animals. Fracked everybody. What do you mean, dogs? Are you allowed to castrate cows, kangaroos, I don't know, cockroaches? Why are you dafka talking about dogs? Why is the question about dogs? There are a few answers. Rashi and Tosfos answer. A dog, they say, is such a lowly animal. Why? Because a dog is the only animal that you're not allowed to bring to the Mizbeach even as a swapped animal. In other words, you can't swap a dog with a sheep and bring the sheep to the Mizbeach. Even Chazir you're allowed. A dog you're not allowed to bring to of course not to the Mizbeach. You can't bring in Chalif Kelev, but Tovi Esnan Zoino, the Mechir Kelev Beis Hashem Elokecha. So what a nice company. The dog together with the Zoino. Oh wow, that's a nice neighbor to have. Says the Ibn Ezra and the Ramban, why? Bizayan. The Ibn Ezra Poshet says, Zu derech bizayan. Anything that was switched with a dog is already Shem bizayan, even though it's a very nice Yiddish looking Shepsale. And therefore, the Havamina was, maybe I'm allowed to castrate a dog because the Isser castration in the Torah, Sirus, is mentioned in relation to Korbanos, even though you can't do it to any animal, but it's somehow connected to Korbanos. So maybe a dog, which is just the opposite of Korban, I'm allowed to be Misaris to castrate. No, even dog I can't castrate, let alone other animals. So in that respect, with all respect to a dog being the beautiful animal that in Mitzrayim was so helpful and was so grateful, the dog also is the only animal which you cannot bring even indirectly to Mizbech in that way, even worse than the Chazir in that respect. And we say because it's derech bizayin. However, the Ramban says, why can't you bring the dog to the Mizbech indirectly? Chalipe kelev, mechir kelev, because as they ponim, the Klovim are tough animals. One of their prominent qualities, of personality traits is that they're very strong, they're persistent, and we all know that a dog is very, very, very loyal. And it says very warm words about the dog being extremely loyal. We saw together in the Amud Yomi about how dogs are loyal. We saw it in Horios, in Gimel. We saw it in other places in the Bava Kama. But I want to tell you something. What? Where? Okay, whatever. Tell me later. So now I want to say something really, really insightful, which I said in the past, and one of the Rabbani, which I spoke to today again in the neighborhood, I prefer not mentioning the name, but he said something very insightful to me many years ago when I had an issue with that with one of my children. He says as follows: Kelev, it's very well known that a Kelev, it's a Marsha. I found the Makor, thanks to Tzar Chochma, Marsha in Sanhedrin Yitzayin, Etzadik Zayin, about Pnei Ador Pnei Kelev. The face of the generation today is like a dog. Why? Well, because chutzpah, says Rashi, people sin in public without you mean the corona mask. Okay, that too. But also, there is the Dogecoin. One of the cryptocurrencies is a dog, it's the face of a dog. But also because chutzpah yazge, people sin in public with no shame, as we all know. And so too, it's like a Kelev in that respect. But says the Maharsha, a famous Jewish idea, why is Kelev called Kelev? Kula lev. A dog is all heart. A dog is very, very, very loyal to its owner, which is part of the azus. What's azus? The person who nags you. A person just won't let go. You know such people that drive me crazy. Like a person who nags and nags and nags and nags and nags and nags and nags, like in an email and phone call again and again and again. You can't. That's a dog. So the dog is one who nags you all the time, but he's also very loyal to you. So this Rav said something insightful, quoting a Hasidic sefer, but he didn't remember which sefer was spoken to today. But I trust him as a very close person. He says because the dog is so emotionally attached to the owner, yeah, that's just ashkafi kadi. It's not halacha. If you don't follow the avet, you can have a pet dog if you follow all the restrictions and the sirus and the muktzah and many other topics that you have to deal with halachically if you don't want to have a dog, if you think it's so choshu. But says the Rav something very insightful. Because the dog is so loyal to you, more than a cat and more than a cow for sure, and more than any other pet, more than a mouse. See, basically befriending, think about it as a Yiddish person, you're a neshama, you are basically potentially, says the Rambam, Moshe Rabbeinu, your neshama soars to the highest of the high, your highest part of the neshama is connected to Hashem, and you're really emotionally connected to an animal. That's something to think about. And when Goyim say that this is man's best friend, they're unfortunately right. But do you want that to be your friend? I'm not saying it's usher. I'm not bringing my own agenda here. I'm just trying to make you think in a certain way. Do you want the Caleb, which is kuloi lev, which is all, by the way, lev is not always, you are good. I mean, the lev, the heart is not always, and thank you, Lev, by the way, for printing it. That's very kind of you and for arranging a lot of things for me. But the lev, meaning the heart, is emotions. A dog is all emotions, seichel. It's an emotional thing. We have seichel, the neshama shebemoichi, and your neshama shebemoichi is lowering itself and connecting to a being that has no neshama, only has a nefesh. Nefesh gaf. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not passing here. You have Rabbanim in the neighborhood, although I spoke to a few Rabbanim, and their opinion is clear. They don't like the fact there are many dogs in the neighborhood, by the way. Not getting personal here. But Lamaisa, this is the story. So we have issues of, if you have to make sure, if you dafka want to buy one, make sure it's not really dangerous. If it looks dangerous, then make sure it's really tight and you walk with it, in a very tight way. And if it's cutesy and chihuahua and poodly, then it's possibly okay. Sounds like it's okay even without shmira, although the yavitz would be machmir. And castration does not help you to give it to a goy. You're not allowed to give it to a goy to castrate it for you, even the aroma, which I know some people do. A guy spoke to me, a Shomer Shabbos person, and I'm sorry to say, I don't know, maybe there are exceptions, maybe there are stories. From what I saw in Shulchan Aruch and Ramah, like a good boy, I'm sorry, I'm a very Litvische, square-head guy. Shulchan Aruch says clearly in Ramah, I'm sorry I didn't get to print it. There's no way you can get the dog castrated through a goy, and he's only really his for 2 weeks, and then he accidentally gives the deck to me. It's not funny. Before you cannot do that. What you can do, I don't know, maybe the other solutions. I'm not a vet, I don't know. But I'm just saying, if a person doesn't, do you really have to have this entire halachic headache on your head with so many halachic shilas, but the same person is so makpid on chometz b'pesach mahadrin and mahadrin, and so makpid that his wife should wear like this, and so makpid on everything. When it comes to so many questions of arurim and isurim and malchus potentially, and of castration, and of stories, and all of a sudden here it's okay. I'm asking a tzarech iyun. I'm sorry if I sound like a religious fanatic. Okay, I live in Bet Shemesh. What can I do? Everyone's fanatic in Bet Shemesh. If you go to the news, that's what they say. But Lamaisa, there are many heavy questions, even boarding the Raisa. And it says that when Eliyahu Hanavi comes to town, the dogs, they laugh, they play. And that's actually one of the positive sides of the club because they're very loyal. And Emirtz Hashem, if we see the dogs start playing, we know Eliyahu Hanavi is here. And let's hope that Mashiach is going to come here very soon. And we'll greet him with or without our dogs. Thank you very much. And Atzlacha Rabbah. Thank you. Bye. Oh, yeah. Very sure, yeah. Thank you.